all things breast milk.
I think we still have some in our freezer.
Yeah, we do in our freezer. It might be past.
That's how important this is, everybody, because like we're talking about the mechanics of being able to eat and to feed. We're talking about latch, and we're talking about excess skin. However, this lip concern is going to show up again and again and again later on in life because like we said, this tissue is all things, but like it's the wire form where they can get really big and small. So that's what we're talking about, that the skull bones need to be able to move like that. And if you would pinch one of those things on that contraption, right, it's not going to fully open. That cranium, like we're going to get the flat spots. We're going to start to notice things on like the cascade. So it could be the one thing, but that one thing is not allowing the milk to be produced. And then we think that once we have really good latch, we still have to wait for milk to come in. And so
everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Skip Wyss. It's always good to see with you with my incredible, beautiful, stunning co-host, Dr. Julie Wyss. How are you today, Ms. Fairy Fingers?
I'm great. You're only just saying like I'm wearing green.
You were in green last time too. Yeah, you're beautiful.
You can't keep track of my outfits.
There's nothing wrong with you being in green, girl. You always look stunning, always look amazing. It's nice to be here again with you. You know, Dr. Julie, last podcast we were talking about commonalities that aren't normal with pregnancy, like pain, all these things that moms go through when they're pregnant, whether they love being pregnant or not. And then we talked some about pelvic floor health. We went through how mom has to be prepared going into labor and delivery. But actually today, I'd like to talk to you about breast milk. All things breast milk.
I think we still have some in our freezer.
Yeah, we do in our freezer. It might be past consumption date.
You never know. If you've breastfed your children or you've breastfed, you know the importance of colostrum and how valuable breast milk is.
But that colostrum's now 13 years old, George.
I understand.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what we can do with that. So let's get into this breast milk health. Breast health for our moms. I think that, like you had hit on last week, it's kind of funny. You had talked about when you're pregnant, your breasts look the best, especially in that first beginning of pregnancy. Your butt gets a little bit bigger, your breasts get a little bit bigger, your tummy's still a little flat. But now baby's out, and now we're talking breast milk. So let's talk first thing. Moms always say to us, how do I increase my supply? But I think it comes down to something a little bit more mechanical with baby first.
Yeah, I think mechanics are definitely, we need to make sure that we're actually getting a proper latch. And man, over the years, we've heard so many stories of, it doesn't matter if it's been a hospital birth, a home birth, a birth center, there is just not enough support for a new mom, an experienced mom, to be able to navigate that breastfeeding journey.
Okay.
There's not people on hand, a lactation specialist, and even sometimes I think people get that title and they're not truly wanting to serve and to be of benefit to that mom.
Well, there's an agenda.
Yeah.
That's like, there's an agenda. And what happens then is, instead of what we've found and what I've seen is, instead of supporting the mom, listening to the mom, and actually understanding and supporting, there's an agenda of, no, my way's the best, my way's the highway.
Not supportive.
Just do as I do, or do as I instruct you, and not give the mom the support, and just listen to what's going on. Because a lot of this comes back down to, when a mom has a supply issue, comes down to the mechanics of baby and latch. And it comes to two things. It comes to either mom's anatomy or baby's anatomy.
Or both.
Or both, actually.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely both. Now, I am a firm believer that if you are creating a baby inside of you, your baby is being put together with half of your genetics, and it's been programmed to breastfeed on you. You are
Absolutely.
not going to have anatomy that doesn't fit unless there is something just genetically wrong with your breast tissue, or we could have a massive anatomy like nipple inversion, something like that. But even then, things can change. But babies should be designed to breastfeed.
Absolutely. We're that yes, that is how we are made. That is how we are made to grow. That's why we have nipples.
Well, that's why we have nipples. That's yeah, exactly. Like you have the anatomy to breastfeed your child. So my question is then is what actually causes that interference then where all of a sudden baby's now earthside out of you and can't latch, can't breastfeed.
Sometimes it can be as simple as just positioning, of not knowing how to hold baby
Mm-hmm.
appropriately, babies being notoriously lazy or not
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they need to open their mouth. But then again, we talked about mom, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be the supply for that mom. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be areola size, it's nipple size, breast size, the tissue size. All of those come into play. And if we don't have a team of support around mom to help navigate that, it makes it really difficult to be a successful breastfeeding mom.
Yeah, and the other side of it then is that it can make mom feel incredibly worth less if baby can't latch, if they can't get breastfeeding done properly, if mom's choosing to and actually feels the need to breastfeed. Some moms don't, and I want to hold space for that. If you choose not to breastfeed, that is 100% your choice. I want to be upfront with that. So this is going to be very breast related to a mom that's breastfeeding, where the latch can be off with baby and that can create a myriad of problems. So once mom's anatomy is make sure that that's good and milk has come in, or the delay of milk, which can come from baby's latch as well.
Mhm.
Baby's latch is usually off.
And I think like you said it, but I think that is like the cascade. So
Yeah.
it could be the one thing, but that one thing is not allowing the milk to be produced. And then we think that once we have really good latch, we still have to wait for milk to come in. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is also a waiting game. You are on a timetable, but I think again, having that support to know, okay, what do I do in this instance? And I mean, that's why we get so many calls and why we have the resources
So
that we
what are
do.
so before we get into latch and anatomy, because I can see kind of where this conversation is going, what do you recommend for moms then for support? What do they have to look for in their communities? What can they find?
So I mean there are milk banks, but there are many moms and and again some people still don't know about this, but there are moms that are overproducers of breast milk
Okay.
and that they have breast milk available to those moms in need, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that can be a long-term relationship to be able to nourish and feed your baby that way, but sometimes we just need to have a little bit of stock just to help within that interim process. There's also other really good resources to be able to fill in during that time. Goat's milk is going to be that next best option to be able to just supplement while again we're trying to navigate getting really good latch and getting production.
So who are the people in the community then that the moms can seek out for helping with latch? So I understand supplementing goat's milk. I understand getting donor milk. But let's say we just need help with latch. Who are the people that
a,
moms
a,
should be
a
looking for?
really good lactation consultant is
Okay.
going to be that really good first stop. I met an amazing dentist the other day. Her network of being able to watch the jaw, the mandible, and to help with that latch. So there's resources within the community. There's mom groups. There
Mm-hmm.
are midwives. Some midwives are also be able to train or at least help to assess. But again, pediatric chiropractors, we have done an amazing just additional amounts, thousands of
Well,
hours
we
of
have.
just assessment to be able to assess that latch, to look at that latch, to watch the breastfeeding, to watch the jaw, to look for any complications or why that latch isn't what it is. And as soon as we can get that latch restored, then all of a sudden that milk production just skyrockets.
It should, yes. Once that's back, that latch is there, and now we get that transfer going back and forth. The breasts then know, okay, I can produce more
Mhm.
milk to help feed baby better. Now, I want to, since we've kind of went through what it's like to find the resources you need, and moms to find resources if they can't breastfeed for breast milk, donor milk, goat's milk formula. Now let's talk. I would like to talk about mechanics of baby, because mechanics of baby is something during breastfeeding that can tremendously impact breast milk flow and breast milk production. And one of the biggest things is upper cervical misalignment and subluxation affecting how the jaw works. And we are experts at checking this. We are experts at knowing what's going on here for the moms out there. And find a chiropractor that is certified in pediatrics through the ICPA, so ICPA4kids.org, and they can search and find one in their area. They should have a CACCP after their name, or a DACCP. Those are great resources to start going down. So checking these children, checking these newborns and infants is critical, is absolutely critical. So let's start first with subluxation process. Generally, passage through the birth canal and or cesarean, being pulled out by hand.
Super simple.
Super simple. Yeah, super simple cesarean, not that big of a deal. It's incredibly big deal. It's a surgery for mom, and it's a pull on baby 10 times out of 10. Baby's got to come out of there, and you're not pushing them out through your abdomen. They're being grabbed out and pulled
for
out.
a C-section.
For a C-section. Vaginal delivery can affect this as well. Even if it's unassisted, we can still go through process of having a subluxation in the upper cervical spine on the way out, upper neck. Or if they're assisted out, forceps, any sort of implement, vacuum. These are implements too, hands, so they can be assisted out by hand. These are all things that can tremendously and traumatically upper misalign and subluxate the upper cervical spine.
And it could have been the entire 9 months of how that baby was inside you in utero. And if you're not under good pregnancy chiropractic care, right, if we have constrictions, if our belly isn't growing how it needs to be, if there's misbalance, then that baby is potentially not being able to fulfill that entire size in the womb.
Yeah, and tremendous pelvic imbalance can lead to all of that. Malposition of baby, which we talked about on our previous episode. So if you want more information about that, jump back into that and listen to it, because what we delve out in there is tremendous information as to seeking out the right chiropractor to help you and to make sure that you're in proper position. But now when baby's born and we're doing our exams and we're checking out our babies, we're always looking at first the size of the head and the cranium and how are those plates made up, because the brain develops in the inside of your baby. The first 2 years of life, 80% of their brain growth is going to happen. And it needs a free-flowing skull, or a free-floating skull, to allow for proper brain growth and development. Now, when these skull plates or these bones make up their skull get out of position, they can start directly impacting how that brain's going to develop.
I just thought of a really good thing. If y'all have seen those, like those circle ball things, but like it's the wire form where they can get really big and small. So that's what we're talking about, that the skull bones need to be able to move like that. And if you would pinch one of those things on that contraption, right, it's not going to fully open. And so that's what we're talking about with the cranial development. If there's some overlap of that bone, that simply means that we're going to have impeded brain growth. That cranium, like we're going to get the flat spots. We're going to start to notice things on our babies.
And moms out there, one of the biggest things is that your jaw attaches to your skull. And most of the time, and this is, we can tie in ear infections in children and other things, because if we get shifts in the bones around where the jaw comes in, which is right by the ear, now we get a shift in those bones, we shift the way that the ears can drain, and then we'll also see a change in latch. So the first signs of subluxation, mainly in children, is an inability to latch.
Meaning we can't open that mouth.
Exactly, and they can't get their mouth open, and then they don't fit your anatomy. Then they may not fit your breast size or your nipple size, and then that will cause a problem. And that's where we start seeing this detrimental cascade to a child's nutrition and their health. And it's super unfortunate. Now, the other side of this is, or on the same side of this, is like we can look at how the mouth is developing as well. One of the biggest things for moms is getting baby to actually latch onto their nipple properly. And most moms are never shown that a baby is born with root reflexes for the first 6 months of their life. And where are those, Dr. Julie?
While baby needs to be born with these things, they also need to be integrated into brain for further brain development. So this is when you bring baby next to your breast and your nipple just kind of tickles the side of their mouth. That's what allows them, the side of their mouth is going to come up and allow them to want to open to feed. That is like survival of the fittest, right? So we need that reflex. That reflex is there to basically feed us and nourish us.
Yep. It's survival for the first 6 months, and you're correct. And their head should come over, and it should not come over. It can come over pretty violent, but it should come over. They have no control over this for their first 6 months of life, and it's something that moms are never shown.
It's not checked for on a well baby check. Your pediatrician doesn't check for it when baby first comes out. Like that should be the first thing of like, congratulations, here's your baby. We want to be checking to make sure that those patterns are on, that baby is ready to feed. Like that's where we get the failure to thrive. Well, it's because we don't have that neurology turned on.
Yeah.
And it's simple and it's easy to turn that on, but so many parents are going home with their child and wondering, why are they not gaining weight?
Right.
Why can I not get them to latch?
Latch is off. Nourishment is off. It's a big deal. So that's a huge one, those root reflexes, and they should be on both sides of the mouth. But even more importantly, another one is a latch reflex, which is the bottom part of the lip and the top part of the lip. When your nipple and your anatomy hits their face, if it touches the bottom part of their lip, they should drop their jaw, open up, and their tongue should come out. If the tongue doesn't come out, now we have a sign of possible tongue tie. If the lip doesn't flange up and flare up, we have the possibility of a possible lip tie. And one of the biggest things that moms see is babies get this little cute little bump on their lip, and moms will say it. They'll say, "This is the cutest little thing," and I unfortunately I'll hold a lot of space for that, and I'll be like, "Yeah, it is very cute," but that's actually a suck blister. That shouldn't be there.
For an improper latch.
So what's happening is baby is actually tucking and rolling that lip underneath while they latch, and it's causing that rubbing on mom's nipple, which can be extremely painful from what I understand. Extremely painful. Can cause chapping. We can get bruising. We can get cracking, bleeding.
Bloody, yep.
And if it's bad enough, moms can actually start losing tissue.
Yep, losing tissue, but then also decreasing supply, right? So if like it's the whole cascade, because then every time, if you know what that's going to feel like, this is where it starts to really hit you. And then we have postpartum hormones going on, and if we can't get, every time that we need to go and feed our baby for survival, we get this pit in our stomach of like, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt so bad. And then our stress goes through the roof, because how are we going to be able to do this? We're going to muscle through it. Baby feels that stress, which then makes that latch even harder to do. And it's a vicious cycle. And then when we have that extra stress, then our supply just automatically is going to decrease.
It's going to decrease. And usually that hits moms the hardest between 4 to 6 weeks. And that's when most moms will quit breastfeeding, when it's too painful. It's just beating you down. And that's not healthy for you or baby. No. So the way I see it is that if mom does stop, we just need to have the right people in place for support to help that mom, because there's a reason why. Can they start back up? We've seen a lot of moms get their breast supply back, their milk back, after completely weaning baby off while they're still postpartum, and get all of that back. But that latch comes back to it, and the mouth comes back to it, and how they can open. Now, let's say that we do find a tongue tie or a lip tie. There are professionals in almost every city that can help deal with lip and tongue ties.
Absolutely.
And having a good dentist to go to that understands it and does laser removal, or a good pediatrician that actually recognizes lip tie and tongue tie and not just tell you it's a normal piece of anatomy, because it's not.
And I think that's the biggest thing, of just recognizing that in whatever field, there's people that understand this, and there's people that just don't understand it. And it's finding the right relationship. That doesn't mean that you have to break up with your dentist if they don't understand it. You find a different dentist, or you find a different specialist for this interim to get this singular event taken care of. And then you can go back for that relationship.
Well, and I think one of the hard parts for mom to really understand at times is when their pediatrician or their midwife or their birth provider say the word they may be tongue tied, they may be lip tied. There is no maybe. They either are or
It's a
they
yes or
aren't.
a no.
It's not a maybe. It's a yes or a no. And most children now, what we're seeing is well over half are
Mhm.
lip and tongue tied, have some sort of tissue.
And we can go
Oh,
back. I mean, we've done the nutrition on it, and
mhm,
like we understand like where the frequency and the relevancy is coming from.
right.
However, again, it's you might get that, but second opinions, third opinions,
Yeah,
fourth opinions, trust your mama gut.
yeah.
And there's, I mean, we're here, right? But
Every
just
mom.
like trust that. And if something is
Hmm.
telling you something is just not right, in the fog of everything else that you have going on in your head, just raise your hand and somebody, we will point you in the right direction to get those
Well,
resources.
every mom needs to understand that there's hope and support out there.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is that having the right people around. Just because somebody says they may be, what they mean to say with that is that or may not need a resection is what should be said. It might need to be clipped. It might need to be taken out. Because just because the baby is tongue tied or lip tied doesn't necessarily they need a lip reduction or
Mhm.
a tongue clip. It means that now we know it's there. What are the therapeutic
Mhm.
exercises? And yes, clipping a tongue is a form of therapeutic for the tongue.
Mhm.
It's going to relieve and take away tissue, but it doesn't necessarily need to be
Doesn't need to
done
happen
on every
100%.
baby that has a lip
Mhm.
tie or a tongue tie. There are great pediatric chiropractors out there that can do soft tissue work, that can do mandible work and the upper part of the mouth work. That's what we do at Prime Family Centers all the time. The reason why is because we can work with that tissue. That tissue has dual innervation from the brain. The
And I
brain
think,
knows
let
what it's
me,
doing.
like, that's how important this is, everybody, because, like, we're talking about the mechanics of being able to eat and to feed. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about latch, we're talking about excess skin. But what's on top of our jaw again? Like, this is our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right now, a mom, like, we're experiencing it in the newborn stages of trying to feed. And then if we get thrown off that path and we choose to bottle feed or whatever, that's perfectly fine. However, this lip concern is going to show up
Mm-hmm.
again and again and again later on in life because like we said, this tissue is directly connected to your brain.
Yeah, and don't throw shade. That is one of the hardest things. This is why women this is why women will internalize and not reach out is because they've been beat up, beat down, because they don't breastfeed or because they do. And there's this vicious cycle. It's the same cycle we see with parents that vaccinate and don't vaccinate.
Mhm.
There's these sides of it that make you feel horrible on both sides. What you need to offer is support on both sides of it. It's extremely
Unjudgmental.
important
Yep.
because there's two lives involved here.
Mhm.
And bottom line is we want those kids to be thriving and healthy.
Healthy.
But even more importantly, I want mom to be thriving and healthy
Mhm.
and not feel like she's going to hurt herself or her child. There's so much going on. And dads out there, we just got to take consideration of all of this and understand we just need to find the support. I love nothing more than dads that call me and say,
Mhm.
hey, I found you online. I need your help. Our child is colicky, they're gassy, they're not feeding right, and my wife's getting destroyed. What that tells me is that dad is extremely involved and
Mhm.
extremely concerned. And I love those conversations with dads, but finding the resources for these moms and then finding the provider that can help you the most and create a team around you and your baby is key. Now that we've talked about latch and we've talked about upper neck subluxation and misalignment and affecting jaw and how jaw is working, what commonly are moms when they're trying to bolster their breast milk? Actually,
Mhm.
they want to get more nutrition in it,
Yeah.
which comes back to the nutrition of mom. I have seen an alarming trend that moms are starting a lot of protein shakes. A lot. They're taking protein bars, they're
Sure.
taking protein shakes because one, I think they're trying to manage their weight.
I was like, so is it managing the weight? Is it because we're in a hurry, or have we been told that we need excess protein to feed baby?
I think it's all three.
Yeah.
I think it's a very unhealthy triad.
Mhm.
And number one, I don't want to flip the camera off. Number one is let's talk about excess protein. Yes, protein is great
Yeah.
to bolster breast milk. It actually will increase it, but you can get it more from not from just putting in a protein shake full of bovine based protein,
All the other things.
milk based protein. You can get it from rice protein, you can get it from pea protein. Like, so when we're looking at protein shakes as a whole, we want to keep a lot of that extra
And the sugars, I
dairy-based
think that's what
proteins
we
out.
forget to look at. I mean, we are eating for two,
Mhm.
right? So, yes, we don't want to be counting calories, but we need to be looking at sugar content
Sugar content
because,
is massive.
we're trying to be healthy or we're trying to put in, all of these good things, but then we're going right past all of the different sugars or the things that break down to sugar within the body.
Agreed. And looking at that, and what I mean by cows based proteins is I mean whey protein. And the reason why we talk about that is because most babies will have a sensitivity to dairy, and one of the most common culprits is whey protein in mom's protein shakes or protein bars. So we need to look differently. Standard Process has amazing protein and amazing meal replacement type shakes that we can help mom with, but we shouldn't be just drinking shakes all day. Our nutrition has to come in across the entire garden,
We have
across the
teeth
entire.
for a
Yep.
reason.
And you need to eat meat. Like we need to have meat in our diet. We need to have protein in our diet. You can be getting protein in from different sources, but meat does really help. Red meats and whites.
But there's high quality proteins.
High quality proteins. Now, secondly, then is what can mom be taking in to help their breast milk production?
Definitely we need lots and lots of water, and you're asking this and I'm thinking, oh, we actually have this resource, this
Oh, we
tool
have it on our app.
on our
Yeah.
clinic app. So if you download our clinic app, Prime Family Chiropractic,
We'll put a link in below for you.
we have an entire mama support, dad support, and so under breast milk support, it's broken down into many different things. Anti-inflammatory diet, again, we talked about lots and lots of water. But if we click underneath our foods, these are going to be our oatmeal, barley, ginger, quinoa, flaxseed, almonds, brown rice, sesame seeds.
Yeah, so really good carbohydrates and oils.
Because
Yeah.
again, we're eating for two. So we need those
Brewer's yeast.
complex things
Yep.
to be able to bolster
Well,
that milk.
those food sources that help bolster and promote estrogen and progesterone production, healthy hormone production, and produce the right amount of estrogen and the right amount of progesterone, prolactin, all of that to help you produce more breast milk. Like that is absolutely key in understanding that and having good nutrition coming in.
Yep, and then I mean, there's herbals in there to definitely add. We have fenugreek, blessed thistle, alfalfa, fennel, turmeric, mother's milk tea. So there is just a lot of resources within this. And again, some people are too shy, or they're like, I don't want anybody to know that I don't know how to navigate this. This is why we have these resources on here. So start here, but again, send us a DM, send us a message. Like, we just want to be able to have you nourish your baby.
Yeah, get your baby as healthy as possible and get you the right place, the right resources. And then lastly, I think one of the hardest things on mom, especially when breastfeeding too, and breastfeeding does help because you're burning between an extra 500 to 1,000 calories a day.
It's work.
If not more, it's work. But your body will then naturally start to regulate its own weight. And a lot of moms try to lose tons of weight fast. Some lose weight fast because of breastfeeding.
Yep.
And you have to hold space for that. Like some moms just lose weight really quick.
Didn't even look like they were pregnant.
No, yeah, like fast, like within weeks. Others, it could take 6 months to a year to get a normal, healthy body weight back for themselves. But they need to take a step back, and the public society needs to realize that these moms just had a baby.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is it's not that excess baby weight is not a nutrition. Lots of times it's not a nutritional thing. Like we are balancing our hormones for 9 months. It took us 10 months to put this weight on, and we have this expectation that 6 weeks postpartum we're supposed to look like we did 11 months ago. That's unrealistic.
Very unrealistic.
And if we start actually thinking about how long it took to put that weight on, we just need to set better parameters and just be like, we grew a baby. Like that is.
Well,
tremendous.
If your husband or your partner has the audacity to tell you that you're not attractive or sexy after you have your child, there is way more underlying issues there and conversations that need to happen, because there should be support there. There should be a lot of love, and the fact that you just blessed us with children is phenomenal, because there isn't a single guy out there, I think, that could ever birth a child. We get upset over hard bubble movements. Okay, so I mean that's the truth. So all of this stuff out there, support the women in your life that brought you this baby and brought this life into your family. This has been a very enlightful conversation. I love this. I love having these conversations about this with you, Julie, because I understand it, but I'm not a woman, so I don't understand it as well as you do, because you've been there.
When you go through it, yeah.
Support
And
them.
again, things are going to continuously change in the birth community, the birth world of how things are done. But the thought of support and community and connection, that is never going to change.
No.
And so sometimes there just needs to be a push. And so if you are listening to this and you've never listened to the podcast, there's a reason why you're hearing this message. If you're catching this on a reel or like a quick link, there's a reason why you're seeing this. Reach out. There is a community here to support you, to uphold you, no judgment, and we will just be able to embrace you and allow you to be the best mom that you can be.
So everybody, all you moms out there and dads, support us here. We're here to help you. Coming at you from Legacy Life Studios. This was Dr. Skip and Dr. Julie for the Prime Podcast. Go out there, get it done. Take care, everybody. Bye.